Welcome back. I'm Brandon, the HBAR Bull, once again joined by Zepsi. We both do some contract work for the HBAR Foundation. That said, we aren't doing this in any official capacity, just personally passing on the latest in the Hedera ecosystem. Welcome back, Zep.
How's it going, Brandon?
It's going really good. There's a lot of exciting stuff going on in the Hedera ecosystem. But of course, the HBAR market and the crypto market is a little rocky, and we'll get into that. The one thing I do want to touch on is this is not financial advice. We aren't financial advisors. You should only take what we have here for educational or entertainment purposes only. We're going to be talking about the HBAR market. We're going to be talking about DeFi. And of course, again, this is not financial advice. With all that out of the way, I did an interview this past week with Dropp and Privacy Check. Did you catch that one?
I did indeed. Yeah, it was great to see two Hedera ecosystem projects coming together, especially two that have been funded by the foundation, and to come together with a brand new use case, leveraging two different types of use case to give a really strong value proposition, which is, since the General Data Protection Regulation Act, there's a completely different model that these sort of advertisement companies and online data companies have to go through to take your data. So what they're basically saying is that now most people, they go in there and they either offer their consent or they don't, but most people don't. So if you can give those people an incentive to give their data for these companies, they hope to bring that sort of, the more people ticking the yes box essentially. But that can only be possible through a microtransaction because, it's not feasible on the current system to say, right, I'll give you 1 cent to say yes. But if you can, you have to be able to do that through a microtransaction platform, i.e. Dropp. So these two use cases come together are definitely offering something to that market that doesn't exist yet.
Yeah, it's exciting for sure. Did you catch the little bombshell that Dropp had at the end?
Yeah, I did indeed. So Shopify and WordPress, two massive companies within their respective industries, they said that, there's going to be an integration there. So potentially that could be massive. If you're a WordPress author and you want to perhaps, this is me speculating, but your tip jar, maybe now they could integrate so those microtransactions into the tip jar or just for buying certain things. And with Shopify, imagine if on Shopify you could then start offering services like microtransactions, which they don't do yet for much smaller. Much smaller transactions, obviously, but I'm sure there's a huge market within the Shopify industry for that kind of payment. So yeah, hopefully we'll learn more about that in your new interview, which I'm sure we will.
Yeah, so the interview is going to be out probably in a couple months after these things go live, but it's really exciting. Like you said, micropayments make things that weren't possible before possible. And I'm not sure if it's just going to be for, WordPress buying their services, buying their website application, or you're actually going to be able to integrate micropayments into your website, which would really be exciting. And then with Shopify, a $50 billion company, they're going to be able to sell their products, of course, using Dropp. And as was explained in that interview a few days ago, that opens up things for $5 payments and $10 payments, but it also opens up things for true micropayments, sub $1 payments. You're only paying 5%, and you can have low value items that you're providing for those micropayments. It could be really, really revolutionary in the industry. All right, so let's move on to Hedera DeFi. What are you thinking about Saucer Swap over the past week?
No, it's been great to see. I think, obviously the TVL has come down a tiny bit, but that's not, I don't think, because of the people who actually have their crypto locked, but I think it's rather the fact that, like we discussed yesterday, that the HBAR price has gone down and the source tokens like HST and the other HTS tokens just in line with the market.
Sure.
So obviously we've seen that value drop, but I don't think that's any sort of indication of any kind of trust in the product at all or anything like that.
No, I think that more crypto assets are going to Saucer Swap. It's just like you said, the price of those assets are coming down, so the total value locked comes down and so forth. So as far as the farming rewards, they're pretty much leveled off. They came down, of course, in the very beginning, we saw really high rewards. They're still really high, but they've come down and kind of leveled off. Most of the big ones, as far as the farming rewards, are leveling out at about 100%, and those returns are getting offered in both Sauce and HBAR. So like HBAR Wrapped ETH is at 102%. Wrapped Bitcoin also around 100% with HBAR. We have HBAR Sauce is around 100%. HBAR X and Sauce around 100%. HBAR USDC also right there around 100%. And then we compound that with the other rewards you get for DeFi, which is the liquidity provider rewards. And we see some good returns for that as well. We have Sauce HBAR, which is over 10%. And then we have USDC HBAR, which is over 15%. So yeah, those things compounding together are still looking really good. So I did want to give a quick update on Stator. They did put out an announcement this past week about NearX, which is for the Near protocol. They had a security incident. And I'm just going to pretty much run through what they told us. They said they wanted to have an update on the NearX security incident. On the 16th of August, 2022, an exploit was found and used the Stator's liquid staking solution on the Near blockchain. The attack was quickly discovered and contained. The total value loss was limited to 165,000 Near, which is about $800,000, or at the time it was. And then they came up with a resolution as well. Stator has announced that we will revert NearX back to the pre-attack state and make the affected users whole by covering the 165,000K Near losses. They also went on, because HBAR and Hedera is the largest StaderX solution, they went on to explain why this could not happen on HBAR. First, Hedera has a battle-tested reference implementation of the HTS token that Stator and other protocols use. This implementation has been tested over millions of transactions across multiple protocols and is thus very robust. Second, the HBAR solution is on a different tech stack. None of the code for our Near solution, token, or staking contract is reused in HBARx implementation. Near is based on Rust, while Hedera is an EVM-compatible chain. And finally, our HBAR staking implementation has been stress tested across several months with over 86,000 transactions and over 12,000 users. As a precaution, we continue to work with security experts to stress test all our contracts. So any thoughts on this, Zep?
Yeah, I think it's obviously great that Stader have come out with that explanation, because obviously when something happens that close to home with a breach, everyone's always consciously kind of a bit anxious about this kind of stuff because you hear about it so often. But yeah, to get that clarity that the HBARx is completely different in terms of infrastructure to the NearX token, I think that was very professional of them to get that out so quickly, definitely.
I do think it's important. It reminds everybody that there can be smart contract issues. There are risks there. They, I'm sure, had a third-party audit on the contract for Near, but it still failed. As for myself, I'm not changing. I'm keeping all the HBARx that I have. I'm keeping it in that platform. I'm not overly concerned at this point, but it does remind everybody, again, that there can be issues.
For sure.
All right. Let's get into some of the analytics. Do you have Metrica up by any chance?
I do indeed.
Okay. All right. So to start off, we're still right around 1 million transactions per day, sitting just under at this point. I did notice that some of the smart contracts came down. Now, that's pretty logical, right? So we have Saucer swap out, and most of the smart contract transactions are being generated from them. I know when Saucer swap first came out, I was harvesting twice a day and things like that. And, I've backed that off a little bit. I harvest once a day, and I'm sure that'll go on to, I'm doing it once every few days and then once a week, things like that. But of course, we're going to hopefully get more customers, so that will bump it up on that front. The time to consensus, we're sitting again just around 5 seconds. It was just under 5 seconds a little while ago. I see it's just over 5 seconds as I'm speaking. And then how are account creations going?
Yeah, so in total we've got 1.04 million according to Metrica. And in the last day, we've had another 2,000 added, 2,163. I think that's about in line with yesterday. We had a bit of a spike at the start of the week, I think. But still, 2,000 is not too bad at all. I'm hoping to see, as more of a sort of, I guess, when we spoke to SourceSwap, they spoke about how they're going to start marketing into other chains and stuff like that. So hopefully we'll start to see that happening soon. And then with that, we'll get more accounts coming over. And also with things like GameFi and stuff like that, hopefully we'll see those figures going up.
Yeah, moving in the right direction, that's for sure. All right, so the fungible token summary, we still see Dovu at the top. I did get clarification. They are doing their payments for their staking solution, so that's where that's coming from. We have Sauce still in second place, not a protocol. Again, we talked about that last week. That's the Slime World game. It seems like they're still going fairly well, and then on down the line. Non-fungible token summary, we see Dead Poets. I haven't seen that NFT out there, have you?
I've actually got two. I've got Kurt Cobain and I've got Kurt Cobain and who's the other one? I've got Jimi Hendrix. So
Okay,
yeah, two of
good
them.
stuff. And then, we see Web23. They have their domain solution out there for .hbar. We have Board Hash Club. How about them?
I have, yeah. I don't actually own any Board Hash Club currently, but I've had an eye on it. I think it's sort of more sort of generative art, a play on the Board Ape Yacht Club, and with some AI sort of enhancements to it. It's interesting, but I don't own any yet.
Okay. And then we have Earthling's founder card. We have a few transactions for that one. I do have one of the founder cards, or I have one of them coming my way. And then we also have the HBAR Bull airship that we talked about last week. I found out that there are only going to be 15 of those. So it's going to be one of the most rare airships in that game. And in addition, it's going to be the fastest airship that's in the game as well. So that's fun to play with.
All right, all right, all right.
That's right. All right, Zeb, the next thing we wanted to touch on is some developer activity going on the Hedera network. Can you talk about the Coin98 analytics?
Sure. So we saw a few days ago now, we saw Coin98 Analytics, they're a pretty big channel. I think they've got nearing 300K followers. They basically they've done this before, and they put out their ranking of active developer counts as per GitHub, but excluding things like comments. So this is, I suppose I'd say true development. I suppose it says development activity shows the project's development activity over time based on a number of pure development related events in the project's public GitHub repository. And then in brackets, it says not counted comments on issues, forks, stars, etc. So on here, on this leaderboard, at the top, you've got Ethereum as expected, you've got Cardano as expected. But in 8th place, actually, we have Hedera. And that puts us above Bitcoin, Polygon, Algorand, Celo, Avalanche, Optimism, Tron, and Phantom. So, those are some pretty big names that we're ahead of. And we've seen, I think that's a reflection, especially we've seen a lot in The Guardian, which is what Wes is doing over with the Envision blockchain team on the Sustainable Impact Fund. We've seen a lot on our Mirror node recently, I think. But I'm not that far into the GitHub, so I can't go too deeply into that. But to see that Hedera is being ranked, they're using the same research method for every single person on that list, every single project on that list, and to see that we are, 8th, which is bang in the middle of their 1 to 16. We're number 8, so that's I think that's really positive for us.
All right, another thing of note is, Hedera focuses on enterprises, and a lot of their developer activity is kind of behind the curtain. So that's not going to be public information. They want to keep some of that stuff quiet. They want to keep it behind closed doors. So, we could be much higher on that list if that enterprise activity was actually included.
For sure.
All right, so the next thing we wanted to move on to is the Hedera Q2 analyst call. That's going to be coming up. Hopefully we can get this out at around noon on Friday. So just 1 hour from now, 1 hour after we put this out, Mance, Shane, and Brett. So Mance, of course, one of the co-founders of Hedera, Shane, the CEO of the HBAR Foundation, and Brett, the chairman of the Hedera Governing Council, will be getting on with, is it Masari?
It is Masari, yeah.
Okay.
So we had the Q2 report fairly recently, and I think there was a pretty substantial decline in TPS, but there was a pretty substantial incline in things like smart contracts on the coattails of the smart contract 2.0 service. But I'm also interested to see why those figures went down with the TPS. Obviously, we know why they went up with the smart contract, but yeah, I think to have their opinion on certain metrics that might have surprised people, and just to get their opinion on the report as a whole. I think from those 3 big hitters, i.e. Shane, Mance, and Brett, I think that's going to be very valuable for us.
All right, so the next thing I want to cover is the pitch event that we had just yesterday. That's where we bring capital allocators and startups and businesses building in the space together so we can get this ecosystem growing even faster. What were your thoughts on the pitch event yesterday, Zep?
I thought it was great. The quality, not I'm not going to say of the not going to say of the people pitching has got better, but in general, I think the whole thing was a lot cleaner. It was very smooth. We had some very strong projects again, and I thought you said this to me earlier was that a lot of these people that are pitching have this revenue. It's not like they're just coming at the very first stage to get money in. A lot of them have self-funded. Some of them have got funding from other places.
Mm-hmm.
So these are projects that are on their feet and just need that extra kind of push, I think. And a lot of them were, yeah, exactly, very, very high quality.
Yeah, like you said, some of them were post-revenue. The quality of the presentations was fantastic. I keep thinking that we're going to do one of these pitch events and the quality is going to come down because we've gone through so many of our startups in the space. But it seems like it's certainly maintaining. We've done a fantastic job in the past. And of course, this one did really well as well. The next one we're going to have is going to be on September 7th. And of course, we're already pretty much packed. We try to keep them to about 12 participants presenting their businesses and applications. And, we're already pretty much all full up and we're going to be rolling over here to October fairly soon. And I don't think we're going to have any problem filling these up monthly.
For sure. I think, next in September, we can expect Mantra DAO and HeliSwap. So that'll be super exciting. I think we've also got Head Starter on there confirmed. So yeah, there's, and I think Hash Guild as well. So, there's that's NFT, DeFi, and Project Accelerator all in one. So I'm very excited to hear their pitches.
Yeah, for sure. Those are going to be some good ones. All right, Zep, let's get into the HBAR market and the crypto market. Things have been fairly ugly over the past 24 hours, and that's because the FOMC minutes came out last night, and those minutes pretty much said that they're going to continue with the rate hikes. They're still going to be fairly aggressive. I think that the market saw the inflation numbers last week, and they thought they might turn a little bit more dovish than they actually came out last night. But of course, it's just one data point, that inflation print that we had last week. So I'm not really surprised that they're remaining fairly hawkish in their stance. But Bitcoin off almost 9% for the day, down about 10% on the week. And HBAR down about 12% on the day and about 19% in the week. That's in line with what we're seeing across the crypto market as far as altcoins. Technicals, we did break through both the uptrend that I was looking at last week and the 50-day moving average. So right now, as far as support, we're looking all the way down at 6 cents. Hopefully that'll hold if we continue to go down. And as far as resistance, I'll be keeping an eye on that 50-day moving average, which is still sitting at right about 7%. And if we do manage to get above that, of course, the Google spike high, just over 8 cents. We talked about that a few days ago, and we rejected pretty hard off of it when we did hit that level last week. As far as a Stator staking update, we still have about 646 million HBAR total value locked, so that hasn't come off very much in response to that Near protocol news. The APY is sitting at about 31% right now, and an HBARx is worth 1.15 HBAR. So if you were in this liquid staking solution from the beginning, you've earned about 15% in terms of HBAR, so not half bad. All right, Zeb, is there anything else you'd like to pass on before we let you go?
I think pretty easy. I think I'm definitely excited to what I would really like to see is which I've heard being talked about in some of the spaces recently, is trying to bridge out into other communities and trying to get some like liquidity from other projects coming over. So really, I think that's what I'd really like to see happening in the sort of medium term. Is source of swap. I know that's part of their marketing strategy. I'm sure with HeliSwap, they're part of Mantra DAO. They've got their first meetup, Hedera meetup in Hong Kong coming up. So hopefully these kind of things, we'll start piecing together, and we'll see even more faces in the ecosystem. I mean, I'm seeing more every day. I think yesterday or the day before, I saw some people from Phantom who have sort of 9,000 followers. Looking over, so just to keep that kind of momentum going, or even build that momentum further. I think that's what I'm really wanting to see, really.
Yeah, it's not just about building the infrastructure in the space. That's certainly important during these bear markets, and we're seeing a lot of that in the Hedera ecosystem. But it's also about building out our community, and that's what you're obviously focused on. I think that's about all we have, Zep. Thanks again for swinging by, and we'll see you next week.
Cheers, Brandon.